Alright, so what we're going to be talking about in this video is the transition property. And when we were talking about pseudo states of an element, I showed you guys how to change the text color or any property really on a element when you hover over it. But I believe I said, and if not, I'm going to say it now, pseudo states can be applied to any element. So you can hover over any element and apply a certain style to it that only affects it if the cursor is over it. So I'm going to create an article hover, and we're going to change the box shadow. So right now the box shadow is set to 2 pixels by 2 pixels with a 10 pixel spread, and we can actually remove this altogether here. Set it to a 5 pixel spread, or 6. Awesome. So when we hover over it, we're going to set the box shadow to 5 pixels, 5 pixels, spread of 20 pixels, and then RGBA 000, and then 7. Save this and refresh it, and we should get a lifting effect, but it happens instantly and nothing lifts like that. And so this is when transition is going to come into play. On the article itself, not hover, because we don't only want to apply a transition once an item is hovered, because that's going to screw everything up. We're going to set it on the article itself. We're going to say transition all, and we set it in seconds, so 1 second. And what this basically means is we're transitioning any property change over the course of 1 second. So this box shadow change is going to change from this right here to this over the course of a second when we hover it. So I'm going to save it and refresh, and you can see that happens. That's now a gradual change, so it becomes 1 pixel, 2 pixel, 3 pixel, and it goes, over the course of a second to that new state. But you'll also notice when I first loaded the page, the padding here or the positions have also transitioned. And so this is when it's going to be important to only target the rules or the properties that you want to apply the transition to in the transition property. So in this instance, for right now, it's just a box shadow. So I'm going to say box-shadow, 1 second. And actually, I'm going to speed that up a bit. I'm going to say 0.5 seconds. Or, if you really want to get technical, you can use milliseconds. So I'm going to say 500 milliseconds. I'm going to save, and again, for seconds, just put the letter S. For milliseconds, put MS. Save this, refresh, and now what you're going to see when you hover over it, well, when I first load the page, it doesn't do the transition for any other property that's getting set, but when I hover over it, it's going to apply that specific rule of box shadow or the property change. It's going to make that happen over the course of a second. Now, we can set multiple transitions here. So let's say I want to also transition the background color, and I want to set that to a shade of gray. What we can do is we can put a comma here and then set background transition is going to be 1 second. And so you can specify properties and the relative timings for each one, I guess. So I'm going to hit save and refresh. And what you're going to see is it's not really noticeable. Let me make that background change a bit longer. So let's make that 3 seconds. Refresh. There you go. So you can see the box shadow is still taking half a second to get to the new state. And the background is quite a bit longer. And so you guys can see that you can set different lengths of time. And you can also set transition delay. And I'm going to set this to 5 seconds. So save, refresh, and now for 5 seconds after we hover over, nothing happens. And then it does. Maybe 5 seconds is a little too extreme. But you guys can see basically what's happening. It's creating a delay. So that's how to set the properties, but you can also set properties individually, just like setting the border. It's a shorthand way. You set the border width and then the style and then the color, and you can set each individual one of those values in its own property. The same is true for transitions. So you can set transition duration, property, etc. So that's all we're going to be learning about in this video. I think we might actually cover this a bit more in the next video, but I'm really excited to get moved on to JavaScript, so I want to do that soon. Hopefully we can get through all this CSS stuff.